Ed, thank you for your time. Your Labor frontbench colleague, Madeleine King, had a whack at the so-called Wolverines, a group including some of your Labor colleagues who are really strong China critics. Do you agree now's the time for them to actively temper their language? Are they doing more harm than good in your portfolio interests of agriculture and resources?
Ash, the biggest thing I'm concerned about is jobs. We've got to make sure that exports are moving, that we're earning money from that, and that we're protecting jobs. We, at this point in time, have nearly 80 ships off the coast of China with approximately or nearly $1 billion worth of coal sitting there. We've had, in the last 24 hours, some companies like Peabody down in the Illawarra, Peabody Mines, telling their workers that from January 4, they're going to need to take extended leave and use up their leave credits because coal can't be stockpiled anymore. And we do need to see some resolution, improvement in the relationship so that we can get those exports moving, we can protect those jobs, and we can have, obviously, the economic benefit at a very difficult time, first recession in 30 years. So it's got to be, the focus has got to be on jobs and how we protect and grow them.
Scott Morrison today accused Anthony Albanese of having an each-way bet on national security. Isn't that what you're doing now? You can't endorse the government's plan to strongly stand up against China, but then point the finger at the government for allowing relations to turn toxic. It's one or the other, isn't it? Isn't that a message that you also need to send to this group of parliamentarians who do have very strong language on China? If your focus is on jobs, shouldn't you be urging them to temper their language?
It'd be fantastic, Ash, if in life it was just one issue we deal with at a time. But unfortunately, in a complex society and in a complex economy, we've got to be able to do two things at once. Stand up for our values, but do it in a way that doesn't come with the sort of economic consequence that we're seeing right now. And the government does need to find a way through. They've got to be able to resolve through back channels or whatever the impasse that we've reached. You know, Bob Hawke could pick up the phone to his counterpart back in the day. John Howard could do the same. Scott Morrison should be able to do the same right now because we've got a lot of jobs riding on this. And again, that doesn't mean that we shut up or we turn a blind eye on the things that matter most to us, but just think before you speak, one, and two, recognise that if you're going to be fast and loose with your language, this can come with a cost in terms of deteriorating relationship. So I just want us, as I said, the focus is on jobs, protecting and growing jobs, especially in the resources sector, especially with a lot of companies that are worried about the stockpiling of coal and wanting to keep it moving and not wanting to see international competitors get a foot in the door that might be a longer term arrangement that we really can't afford to see.
To be fair, the nature of the Chinese regime has changed quite a lot over those years from the Hawke and Howard years.
I totally accept
when you look at the resources sector, though, what could be the next frontier, do you think, in this trade war in particular? How confident are you that iron ore is safe from Beijing's wrath?
I think we've seen in the last 24 hours, Ash, how much iron ore sales help the WA economy. And that is not just in terms of the economy, but jobs in WA. And so clearly we've got to think carefully about how we, again, find that balance between standing up for our values and interests and ensuring that we have the growth, the economic growth and the jobs that come out of the export of iron ore from WA. We also have in agriculture as well. There's a lot in WA. I know that there'd be barley growers, for example, that are very concerned about what's happening with the treatment of exports there. So we need to be able to ensure that, you know, a lot of, and in wine as well, that's the other market that's been affected, beef too. We want to be able to see us, you know, see our agriculture sector, our resources sector do well and find that balance.
Several oil refineries are on the brink of closing around the country. BP's already decided to close its Kwinana plant in WA. If you were the minister now, what sort of fuel security measures would you be implementing? The government's looking, I know, at a production payment or a subsidy to provide support. Yeah. Is that the right move?
Look, I met with workers this week, Ash, who with refineries across the country, very concerned about their future work, concerned about employment they're not just direct but indirect too, the contractors that have a role in maintaining those refineries. The things that they have said to me that I think have some really strong merit and should be considered is the government working with the sector on storage, making sure that our IEA fuel supply obligations, the stockpiling obligations of 90 days, that we could see an improvement in storage. We could see some measures with respect to some of the stuff that the government's talking. The AWU, for instance, arguing that there might be other measures with respect to adding to the fuel price. We've obviously got to work through some of this stuff, but certainly strategic infrastructure, like in respect of refineries, boosting our supply, that is definitely something worth looking at, and be interested to see what the government response is there at a time where we're arguing more for self-reliance in a post-COVID environment and seeing what we can do. I think for a lot of those workers, they want to see the government take some concrete steps in listening to what they have been saying, what the unions have been saying, and encouraging refineries to stay onshore, and that we don't see a situation where we're just importing refined fuel. We've had a proud history here. We should be seeing what we can do to maintain that into the future.
Yep, sounds like the government's making progress on that front, so we're watching closely for any announcement. Ed Husic, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ash.